Welcome to another awesome community group. I hope you've already had time to break bread, spend some time together, and I hope you're utilizing that time to really get to know each other and walk life on life together. Today, we are jumping into, and Sunday we looked at James chapter 4, starting in verse 11 and going through verse 17. And I want to start before that, though, reading verse 10 to you, just to remind you where we're coming from. Verse 10 said, "Humble yourselves before the Lord, and he will lift you up." Well, you're going to see in the text in just a moment what I call don't play God. You're going to see that we have a tendency to play God over others and to play God over our own lives instead of coming humbly before the Lord that he would exalt us. We position ourselves above ourselves and others. And so read the text, come right back. I have some questions for us. As I'm sure you saw, verse 11 and 12 speaks of us too often slandering or speaking against, is really what that means, brothers and sisters in Christ or the one another's, and saying that we shouldn't speak against them or against the law, and really continues to say there is a judge with a capital J and a lawgiver, and that's not us, that's God, and that we have no place to try to play God over others. And so the question I have for us is, when have I noticed, this is ask it of yourself, when have I noticed myself judging instead of loving other believers? And so just the idea and understanding that I'm not called to talk down to others, but we're called to come down to others. And so real quick side note before you answer that question, and speaking of judging, we talked about on Sunday a little bit, this is talking about arrogant, self-righteous judging as if you have it all together or as if you're God. There is a righteous way to assess and judge inside of the church correctly in love, hoping for reconciliation. This isn't talking about that. This is talking about going after each other and playing a holier than thou stance against each other, which can happen too often. So the question again, when have I noticed myself judging instead of loving other believers? Talk about it. As we move on, verse 13 through 17 speaks of boasting in our own plans when we haven't even considered God, as if we are sovereign over the direction of our life and the duration of our life, that we could, in our own strength, just will anything we want to happen. Now, on some level, we understand that there are certain disciplines that help us get places in life, but this is speaking as if we have control, as if we can force ourselves to live longer or make things work in our own will and way. And we tend to play God over our own lives. And I wrote down, we plan and act as though we control the direction and durations of our life. So I have some questions built around how we plan and make decisions. The first question is, what decisions have I made lately in which I failed to include God's will and way, where I didn't consider him, I just made my own decision? Talk about it now. And to go along with that, we see here that we're supposed to understand it in if it is God's will, and that doesn't mean that we say, I'm going to do this with whatever my plan is, God willing, but that we consider that God's plans are always successful. His plans come through. He's sovereign. And that we would also think through, God, your will and not my own. So when we're considering our plans, that we do it in light of what is right and righteous according to his revealed will, and prayerfully of what he would have for us. So my last question for us today, and then after we answer this question, make sure you pray with each other, and then I'll see you on Sunday. But answer this question first. What decisions or plans do I have coming up that I need to submit to God's will instead of my own will? Talk about it. I love you. I'll see you on Sunday.